Tina talks. National Association of Realtors suddenly discovers I'm right. And coffees for closers on today's Unnamed Real Estate Podcast. Is there anything less professional than not keeping an appointment? And very less professional if you're not keeping an appointment on Zoom. My name is Charles Ray Dawson. I am the residential sales manager and associate broker here at ProStar Realty. This is the Unnamed Real Estate Podcast, episode 42. And a lot of stuff going on in the world today. We're going to cover our new movie review. We're going to do Glengarry Glen. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get it all in one video. We might have to roll it over till next week because I have a lot to talk about. And a lot not to talk about. I was really surprised when I rewatched that, my different take on it now. Got Tina coming up, our numbers, what's going on with that, and then we got a bunch of real estate news. So let's start with the Tina numbers first, and then we'll go straight into the real estate numbers, and then we'll start catching up on the news. Tina had her weekly meeting. And we're going into the holidays, so she's not doing one next week, and then we'll be following up after that. You remember the guy I was telling you about that just wasn't actually making my call? Hold on for a second. And that was him. So, and he actually had a good excuse. Had to rush his dog down to the vet and whatnot, so he wasn't couldn't make the appointment. Of course, that's right up there with the dog ate my homework and everything like that. But hey, I'll accept it. So he's going to be calling me back in 15 minutes. That should give me plenty of time to get rid of, take care of the Tina numbers and everything. So with Tina, big stuff that's coming in on a national level is that the forbearances. Remember, we were talking about the forebears over the last year and stuff. Those were the houses that homeowners were not making mortgage payments on because they had been impacted by COVID. Those are improving. More houses are coming off of forbearance and not necessarily winding up as a foreclosure. We're down another 10% month over month, and it's moving right along. We're also not seeing any notices of trustees sales. Now remember, with the notice of trustee sale, that is the first step towards, in Arizona, a foreclosure. We're not a foreclosure state. We're what's called a deed of trust state. And what a deed of trust state means is that they don't actually have to go to the judge and get a notice of foreclosure from the judge. They simply exercise their deed of trust with the trustee and the trustor and the beneficiary. And they have 90 days from the notice of intent to notify the homeowner, and so the homeowner has 90 days to get their situation unscrewed to keep the house, right? But the notice is the first part of that. And last month there was only 146, which is very, very low, right? On average, before all the crazy kicked off, those notices would have been between 400 and 500 a month. So we're under historical norms. And just let you know, in the peak of the crash, which was March of 2009. March of 2009, the peak foreclosure notice of trustee sale in 1 month was over 10,000. So we are way, way off of that. So it doesn't, once again, it doesn't look like the forbearances are going to be a thing. They're slowly coming off. The lenders are working with the homeowners. The homeowners are working with the lenders back, or they're selling their house and getting out, but the banks aren't coming in for the foreclosures. So all you guys who are waiting out there on the sidelines with your cash, waiting for all the foreclosures to suddenly hit so you could swoop in and buy them, like it was 2010, 2012 again, sorry, you missed this one. So, because of that, because of this, the forbearance is not happening, because we are no longer doing the 100% financing like we were back in 2005. Nobody's talking about the big crash. There was a a lady who came on one of the big financial channels, and she got herself a little hit piece basically, and a lot of drama and everything going on about how, oh, this is looking just like 2005. This is looking just like 2005. And most of the professionals are wildly scoffing at what she's saying. It's just like, yeah, it's nothing at all like 2005. All right, 2005 had a bunch of weirdness going on that led into 2006. All right, and 2006 is when the markets just sort of plateaued for 2 years, and we didn't actually start seeing that crash until November of 2007. So we're watching the numbers. We're not seeing anything go in that direction, except the closest metric that we have out there that's even close to where, you know, we would start looking like that 2005, 2006 scenario is our affordability is still dropping. Right, it's down to 51.2. And remember, what they mean by affordability is how much your average medium household income can afford compared to the listings on the MLS, the median price point on the MLS. Right. So your median family, all right, and for you guys who fell asleep in math class and everything like that, averages you add all the numbers up, divide by the number of people or number of entities that you're adding up. All right. And then that'll give you the average. Median is the exact 50% mark. Half of the people you're studying are on one side, half are on the other side. All right. So we're at 51.2%, which has been coming down. We like to see that in the 60s and 80s. All right. Remember a couple weeks ago I mentioned, hey, we just dropped under 60. This is something we need to watch out for. All right, and now we're down to 51.2, which means your median household here in Arizona can buy 51.2% of everything they see on the MLS. All right? And if you're wondering, how does that start tracking into the crash and stuff like that? When the wheels really started to come off in that, 06, 07, when things started plateauing, we were down in the 20s. So we're keeping an eye on that. We're tracking that. And there's also some question about whether or not even 51.2 isn't being a little bit overly dramatic because of the way they work out the numbers according to inflation stuff. So it might be better than 51.2, right? But that's what we got right now. Median household income is still $420,000. This is the third week that it's plateaued at that level. It looks like we might have hit a top there. But we're also in the seasonality right now because things slow down in fall going into the winter time, and then they start picking back up January 1st. So, and the median size of house is 1,900 square feet. So we're 10 days on market right now across the board on the MLS. That is up from our lower we're at, where it's like 5 days. Once again, this means that your average house is going to sell, by the second weekend. So that's our TINA numbers. That's us moving along. So let's go over to the quick numbers right back, and they'll get back and cover the rest of the news. Now the numbers for November 17th, 2021. Actives this week are 7,284, down 72. This is continuing a 4-week drop in active listings. 2,289 new listings hit the market this week, which is down 148 from the week before. Our pendings were 1,935, down 25. 1,200 under contracts looking for backups, up 48. Contracts with the buyer's contingency is 102, down 12. Close this week is 2,180, which is up 78 from the week prior. And coming soon to an MLS near you is 721 new listings. Okay, now I got that meeting out of the way, and as you can tell, it's later on in the day. Here comes the sun. News came out this week on real estate. We're having the National Association of Realtors had their annual conference. It just wrapped up and everything, and they voted on a couple things, and there was a couple main news takeaways from that. A lot of little news. They managed to defeat the idea of getting rid of 1031 exchanges that is being used by people as a way to delay paying taxes on real estate investments. 1031 exchange, basically, if you were to sell a property that's an investment, you would have to pay capital gains on it. But with a 1031, you can use the proceeds from the sale to purchase a like property and not have to pay capital gains tax and then take what's left to buy another property. You can just move that money over, but that changes the basis of the property that you are purchasing. As always, asterisks. Ray is not an attorney. Ray is not a financial advisor. Ray is not a tax accountant. Always seek professional help when you're thinking about doing these things, right? But it got overturned. That was something that the administration was looking at getting rid of as a way to generate more revenue for federal spending, and that appeared to be relatively low-hanging fruit. Got shot down. They're not going to do it this year. So that's part of the news that came out. Otherwise, just basically, real estate was doing better than was expected. The COVID impact is lessening. We had a very hot year for real estate still. Even though you're not seeing a lot of properties on the market, per our last numbers, it's because the properties are coming off the market almost as fast as they go on. In the last couple of weeks, they've actually been coming off faster than they've been going on. Tina likes to use this analogy. Think of it as a bathtub, right? The water coming into the bathtub, all right, is coming in as fast as the drain is taking it out. It's going to stay at a steady level, whatever it's at. So that's what we've had going on there. So other than that, supply chain issues are supposed to get better. Whole bunch of insider baseball stuff. How people are finding real estate agents, how they're, how many real estate agents do they talk to before they decide to go with one, either for buying or selling, and what's the primary way that real estate agents are introduced to potential clients, right? I don't think it's a secret, right? It's referrals. Right. Number one way people come in contact with a real estate agent is somebody refers that person to a family member or an agent that they've worked with before in the past. So that's why we all love referrals here, guys. So the biggest news, and the news that I'm particularly proud to report, is after however many years of me doing this, the National Association of Realtors has finally listened to Ray Dawson. Thank you. I know. It's been like 12 years. That's a better average than most of my friends. Eventually they do come around and go, wow, Ray, you were always right the entire time. Yes, Drew, I was. So, but they came up and voted and decided to deal with that issue that I have been mentioning for our last couple episodes here about that buyer broker commission and whether or not it's going to be listed to where the public can actually see it. And the answer is yes. They're finally putting out there somewhere where you, the buyer, can see how much your buyer's agent is going to get paid when they do that, transaction with you. I covered this a lot in episode 35. If you wanted to go back to episode 35 and watch that again. That was the episode where I actually announced that I would be using a buyer broker agreement on all transactions from there on forward, specifically because with the heightened demand and the business the way it is, selling agents who are getting listings are negotiating lower and lower commissions for the actual sale of the property, and they're passing those costs on to the buyer's agent. All right, in many cases, they'll negotiate like a 4% closing cost to the seller, and they'll only offer 1% off to the other side. Or sometimes they'll actually do an honest split and just go 2 and then one side and one side. There is an agent here out on the east side that no matter what the price of the property, she's only listing it at $1,500. So because this seems the way the market is going, and these are the current trends, I'm going to a buyer broker agreement now. A lot of agents out there are, and it's going to be the new thing. And now the National Association of Realtors is actually catching up with us. When a buyer is looking at that property for sale, they're going to be seeing that number and realizing that they might have to come out of their pocket more for initial closing costs if the seller is not making up that fee. All right. So, and that's something else we can go into greater details later on. But once again, I cover most of it in episode 35. Take a look at that one. And I also do go through the buyer broker agreement like I did the contracts, and you can see that on the playlists where I cover the docs, right? That's called unnamed documents. Go find the playlist. So that's the first thing. And the second thing that they did, which I actually also really I'm happy with, is real estate agents are no longer allowed to use the words free to the buyer, all right, which was some sort of like legalese hand-wavium that they used to get away with and stuff like that, where agents say, oh no, you use the buyer, you don't have to pay anything. Well, yeah, the buyer doesn't have to pay anything, all right, but what is really happening is the buyer's agent is still getting paid. So the way they worded this thing is that the buyer's agent can't state or act like, oh no, I just do this for free. Yeah, I do this because I just have this unholy love of pretty kitchens, and because I show buyers pretty kitchens, I get to go into strangers' houses. No, can't say that anymore. The buyer's agent can no longer say the service that's provided to the buyer is free unless they are actively and honestly working for free and not getting paid by anybody. Not by the sellers, not by the seller's agent, not by the broker, not by the builder, nothing. If they're going to use the term free in their marketing, they actually have to be doing it gratis and for no money whatsoever. So, and that's a great change. I mean, seriously, buyers really need to know, what's happening with the money. And I've never felt comfortable with the idea that, oh yeah, you see it in the HUD at the very end of the day. At the settlement statement, you're going to see how much your broker actually got paid for this thing. I always talk to my clients about that, and the clients always know that Ray does eventually get paid. Many years ago, it used to be really common in the MLS where I'd be sitting there looking at a listing, and down there in that little private comments where we're not supposed to share with anybody, you would see seller to pay $1,500 bonus or $1,000 bonus or whatever bonus to buyer's broker for a full price offer. That's accepted. Now, I always thought that was a bribe. I think that's a bribe. I was just gobsmacked at the very fact that the MLS and National Association of Realtors through the MLSs allowed people to advertise that. Hi, just so you know, the seller's willing to bribe us to, forget our fiduciary duties to our buyers. All right. And we're going to put that in the private remarks column where you're not supposed to be able to tell your buyer that. Seriously? Wow. It was really eye-opening really early on in the process when I'm reading these things. I'm like, this word fiduciary, I don't think it means what the National Association of Realtors thinks it means. I know what I think it means, but apparently we're working different definitions because the very fact that you're trying to bribe me to not put my client's best interest first smacks of evil. So those eventually went away, and I don't know if it's just the market made it go away because sellers didn't have to offer that anymore, or the National Association of Realtors actually did come down on that kind of marketing idea. So that's ignorance on my part. I don't know which way that thing went. I like to think that they corrected this heinous shenanigans and things are better now. But the very powerful move, very great move. Transparency is a great thing. And we are getting that light change issue that drives certain members of my viewers nuts, and I am sorry for that. It's just I tried to get this stuff recorded earlier today and it didn't happen. So that's it for the news. That's where we're at. Let's kick off, see how much Glengarry Glen Ross I can get covered, and then the rest of it will roll into next week, wrap up at the end of this discussion. Glengarry Glen Ross is a movie about a real estate office. Glengarry Glen Ross is a movie about a real estate office. It came out in 1992. It was a commercial failure. It cost $12.5 million to produce, and they only took in $10.7 million North American box office. It is also a cult classic. It is turned into a legendary movie for various Wall Street dude bros to get together and watch one scene out of this movie and quote it to each other. You've heard these quotes, right? If you ever wonder where the line "coffee for closers" came from, it came from Glengarry Glen Ross. And we're including it because it's a real estate office. It's a real estate. It's about the dynamics that happen in a real estate office. But since the theme of these reviews is this an accurate representation? I'm going to tell you straight off the top, no. This is not any real estate office that I've seen. But I'm going to explain to you why it works as a play. All right. So Glengarry Glen Ross is based off a play that was written by David Mamet. He wrote and produced a play in 1984. It won the Pulitzer Prize. You can actually find on YouTube videos of the play being performed. I will include one in the show notes below because it's fascinating when you compare the two. And unlike last week where I did American Beauty, I'm not actually going to be showing you video from this play or from this movie. And it's not because I got my first ever copyright strike from YouTube that I got last week, not for the use of the video, but because the video I was showing had music in the background, and YouTube let me know that I had copyrighted music playing on my video. Okay, and because of that, all of my ad revenue that I got from that particular video would go to the musician and the songwriter who wrote that music and has a copyright to that. And I wish them all of it. All right, because let's be honest, I know a lot of musicians who are artists, a lot of musicians. I'm friends with a lot of different bands. Some of them will actually admit to knowing me, right? And I honestly, truly believe that artists deserve to get paid. I'm not a big fan of artists out there working for exposure, because everybody knows you die from exposure. All right. And so if for some reason YouTube starts monetizing that particular video I did, I have not requested any monetization of any of my videos. They are happy. I'm happy if they're going to take all of that and push it off to that gentleman. But in this one, I'm not showing any videos, and it's not about copyright. It's about profanity. All right. Because these MRFers do swear an awful lot, right? And so do I, but not at the Glengarry Glen Ross level of profanity. And the other thing is at any one time, these guys are saying things that could be considered a fair housing violation in today's age. All right, they use racial epithets. All right, they discuss nationality, one thing after another. They're pretty crass and pretty racist and all around not nice people. All right, there's not a person in here that you like at the end of the day. All right, and once again, I really, really hate the fact that they have these non-sympathetic characters playing real estate agents, because we're nice people. We mean well. So, but these people right here, I mean, look at this lineup. All right, this is possibly some of the best actors you'll ever see in one place. All right, you got Kevin Spacey before he became Kevin Spacey and got sort of creepy. You got Al Pacino here. You got Jack Lemmon. Right? You got Alec Baldwin before he went on his murderous rampage. Right? You got this guy who you see him a million times, Alan Arkin. All right, you know this guy, and for some reason I always have a name block. I like him in everything I see him in. I just never go, oh my God, it's Alan Arkin. I have to see this movie. All right? And you also have Ed Harris here on the end. All right, and you might remember Ed Harris from The Godfather. All right, so this lineup right here is just spectacular. Oh, and they have a special guest star, right? The High Sparrow. So Glengarry Glen Ross is about a real estate office. And just to overline the plot, really simple. This is a 2-act play, basically. The first act introduces the drama that's going on. Right? These people are trying to make sales. Right? They're not making sales, and they get the announcement, okay, that there's 4 agents in this office, right? And we're going to give the highest producing agent a new Cadillac. The second producing agent is going to get a set of steak knives, and the last 2 are getting fired. All right, that's the drama. So real estate agents will prune, or real estate brokerages will prune. They won't necessarily fire people. Now, that being said, there's a couple brokerages here in town that are, because of their personal branding and whatnot, and they want to be positioned as being uber elite, in that they won't keep on part-timers. They won't keep on people who are not striving to be the uber elite. And they probably sit there and watch this movie over and over again, looking for more motivation. But real estate is one of those nice little businesses, that if you're an agent, 9 times out of 10 you're working for a brokerage where it's like, you want to take a month off and you got nothing going on, take a month off, right? If you decide you need to spend a 6-month hiatus hiking through the Andes, go for it. But in this particular case, and that's part of the drama of this, is that these 4 agents here are all working for the man. And their job is to sell not residential real estate. And this is a key difference here. These guys are selling investment properties. And because they are selling investment properties, they're not actually showing the property. It's not like they're taking people on house tours, looking at pretty kitchens or anything like that. What they're doing is they are clearly selling this land here as an investment opportunity. And you see that throughout the whole rest of the play as they interact with clients. They are talking about it as an investment opportunity. And what is happening in this particular business model here is Mitch and Murray, the owners of this company, are purchasing leads. These leads are getting disseminated out to the agents, and these sales agents are supposed to go out there and sell based off those leads. Right? Now, we're going to talk about leads coming up in the next episode and stuff like that later on. All right. But to know that model gives you the context when we can start talking about these characters. Now, I said earlier on, the main reason why I wanted to do this movie is because I've met these character types. All right, both here in my current brokerage and other brokerages, and I will tell you, and I'll explain to you, this is how these agents wind up being this way. All right, so let's start at the beginning. Right. We have Alan Arkin character, right? And he's got some backstory that you really don't actually see in the movie's not showing it to you. I think the play might have, and but it's a background information here that this character right here, the Alan Arkin character, this is actually his retirement career or second career. He was originally a school teacher, and now he's trying to sling real estate. And you can see back on this screen right here, right? This is him down at the bottom. He's made $7,000 in sales to date. All right, this is September. His sales to date, right, which is probably annual, right? He's made $7,000 in sales. He's not quite last, but he's damn close, right? And it's because he's a part-timer. And as a character, his almost main job right there is to sit there and repeat everything this guy says. And it's David Mamet. David Mamet has this really, really weird pattern when he's writing dialogue, where he repeats it and people are talking out loud, but they're not necessarily talking to the person in front of him. And he repeats himself a lot, and you'll have characters repeat themselves a lot. Do you understand that? Do you understand that? Do you understand? Understand? Understand. Right. That's David Mamet. That's how he writes dialogue. And if you are not a fan of watching grown men yell at each other, you might not be a big fan of this movie. Because these guys do a lot of 3 people doing exactly like that over the top of each other with the occasional F word and, other words thrown into it, which is why we're not showing this live on video. But this gentleman right here is not a great agent. He's not a good agent. You can't even say he's treading water right now, because as we've seen with the plots coming down, he's going to get whacked. All right. He's third. Third is gone. All right. The third prize is you're fired. All right. And he spends his entire time through this movie complaining about the leads, complaining about life, complaining about what's happening to him, and being this guy's sounding board. And they'll sit there. They have an entire scene where they just whine and snivel at each other and blame Mitch and Murray, the owners, and blaming this guy, the office manager. Because But you can tell almost because of his backstory and everything, this guy never really got spun up and he never really got told, trained on how to do his job. He doesn't really know what's going on. And he is almost the epitome of what I see as part-time agents right now. They get the license and they still either have family duties they have to perform or they have a full-time job that they're working. And they just thought this was going to be easy money and something they can do on the weekend. And they're not really producing at the levels where they're a full-time agent. And this guy, I think he's just there to drink the free coffee. And to let this character, rant at him about how the injustice of the life. Now, Ed Wood's character, or Ed Harris. Why do I keep getting Ed Wood's? Ed Harris's character. All right, the character's name is Dave Moss, and he is the epitome of the grunt agent who's burned out. This is a guy who never became the superstar. He never took his business to the next level because he hit a certain point of resistance, and instead of powering through that certain point of resistance, he has come up with every excuse why his failure is not his responsibility. And him, right? So, Dave Moss here, right? And Dave and George, they spend their entire time blaming the leads. The leads suck. The leads are crap. The leads aren't good leads. And they're not getting it done. They look at the lead and they're already defeated. I've already called this person. I don't like this person's last name. He's a fill in the blank. Those guys never buy. All right. They are waiting for success to happen to them, and success is not happening to them, but they're going through the motions, they're slogging along, and they don't realize that what needs to happen is that they actually need to go out there and start making magic happen. All right. So, and not meaning to put any spoilers in, because there are the magic leads showing up, they are eventually going to, they're hoping once they get the magic leads. Remember me talking about the magic feather in previous episodes? The little magic thing that will suddenly make your life better? These guys are waiting for the magic leads to show up. Now, Ed Harris's character, who Dave Moss, he is very bombastic, very argumentative, he's sitting there slinging it back and forth, talking the talk and walking the walk and talking a really, really big game. But early on in the movie, he has an altercation with the true alpha male in the place. And this scene right here, if you watch this movie, watch this scene right here and watch his body language when he is actually called on his bullshit and confronted. All right? He folds. He's out there talking like, if Mitch and Murray were here, I'd give them a piece of my mind. I do this. I don't have to do. All right? And there's your chance there. There you are, boy. Here's your chance to stand up and tell the guy from Mitch and Murray everything that they need to know about how they're ruining the company. And what does he do? He folds. All right. That's Ed Harris's character right here. This is, the character Dave Moss. And this real estate agent I've seen too. All right. Guy who's always complaining the office isn't doing enough for me. All right. I could be successful if I was working for another brokerage. These are the guys who jump 5 or 6 brokerages in 3 or 4 years. They're always out there. Oh, it's never their fault. It's always somebody else's fault. All right. This guy here, he's mirroring everything that this guy is teaching him. All right. This guy right here probably doesn't know any better because nobody actually took him under their wing and said, okay, kid, this is how we go sling real estate. All right. Instead, he's got himself this little bitch buddy over here, and that's all they do. They whine and snivel at each other about how cruel and unjust the world is and how they could have been a contender, Charlie. All right. But they're not. And there was his chance, and he missed it. All right. This is the target got by guy. Now, the other one I want to follow up with right here for today in this episode is the Kevin Spacey character. And to understand the Kevin Spacey character and understand, everybody else in here, the main stressor of this movie is a word that you've heard me say several times, leads. In real estate, a lead is gold. All right. If you noticed, earlier when I was giving over the news, I mentioned the fact that, once again, the number one source of agents finding clients to work with is referrals. Right? There's another thing that I did not tell you, right? Is that over 70% of all buyers and sellers work with the first agent they talk to. So a lead is a contact information for a person who has a need of real estate services. And that lead, if that person is actually honestly needs real estate services, right, is 75% likely to work with you if you call them up and go, "Hi, my name's Ray Dawson. I'm with ProStar Realty. I understand you have some real estate problems that you'd like to get resolved." All right, 75% chance of that person working with you. All right, that's the national average. That's why these people are so hung up on the leads. Now, this office environment, Kevin Spacey, who's over here on the left-hand side, he is the office manager. As the office manager, he handles the paperwork, makes sure that everything gets done legal, beagle, and that kind of stuff, and taken down to the bank properly. All right? But he also disperses the leads. And he hands out 2 leads every day to the agents in the office. The 4 agents in the office, total 8 leads a day, are disseminated out. Right? These leads are owned by the company, and these guys' job is to take those leads and prosecute them and turn them into actual contracts. Right? That's the job dynamic here. In modern real estate, in real estate as we practice it here, is the leads that are disseminated out from, the office are one thing. And there are offices out there where clients or real estate agents have never heard of an office lead before, because their owners of those brokerages don't share it with them. They keep those all for themselves. And there's other offices where leads come in as part of signing on board. You sign on with ProStar, we have office leads. Right? If you were on the roster for getting office leads and you need work and you want something to do, we're going to call you up and say, "Hey, Bob, got a buyer out in your neck of the woods. They're qualified for $350,000. You ready to go show them some pretty kitchens?" And if Bob's ready to work, Bob gets that lead. Bob goes out and makes us all money. Go Bob. But in this particular, there are offices out there that do not do that on the residential real estate side. And the thing is, an office-generated lead was generated at the expense of the office. They're not free. All right. Either we paid for the website that person went to, we paid for the IDX feed to make sure that website worked right, we paid for the mailers, get people calling into our phone system and stuff like that. We paid for whatever it took. Sometimes we went out there and paid Realtor.com a god-awful amount of money to get leads that they generate out of a particular zip code. Zillow works the same way. Agents pay Zillow to give them leads for people who clicked on Zillow saying, "I want to talk to a real estate agent." Right? Very common. Those are office leads, and they're generated at office expense. The leads that Mitch and Murray are disseminating out to their agents, they paid for. At this particular time period of day, back in the 90s, it could have been somebody was filling out the card in the magazine. Please return this postcard for more information. Or they called in, off of an infomercial or anything. Anyways, Mitch and Murray paid money for those leads. Those leads are being disseminated out, and these people are upset because they don't like the quality of those leads. And basically because the leads are stale. These are old leads. They've been out there freaking forever. So, but Kevin Spacey's job is carry the office, and he hands the leads out. And as we can see later on in the play, he's playing favorites with the leads. All right? He literally winds up screwing over a character, all right, by giving him a lead that he knows is bad. And this is on the day everybody's told, all right, I can't say the way the movie says it, all right, but it's sell or walk. So Kevin Spacey is you do see office managers, and I know my office manager doesn't actually watch this video. Otherwise, she might kick my ass in the morning when I get in. But you see a lot of office managers, a lot of support staff, they're licensed sales agents. They have to be licensed sales agents if a phone call comes in and somebody wants to know anything about the property. But they're not slinging it anymore. They get paid. They're W-2 employees. And you see a lot of transaction coordinators are like this. So Kevin Spacey sort of fills that role. You see these individuals like, yeah, they're licensed. They gave it a shot. They used to work sales. They used to be out there doing their thing. And now they were hired by the company to support the other salespeople. He gets verbally abused by every character. Every one of the salespeople verbally abuse him. The Ed Harris character verbally abuse him. Even the Alan Arkin character snipes at him every once in a while. Right? He's the whipping boy for the office. Right? He is the symbol. He's the symbol of authority, right? Because he's working directly for Mitch and Murray, and as a symbol of authority, he's taking all the hassle from these agents who are upset with life and upset with the leads, and so he's in a very sympathetic role, right? Now, out of all the characters on here, all right, he's the one that I can actually feel any sympathy towards, all right? Because he is ultimately just implementing, all right, policy from above. All right, the policy gets handed down from upon high, and he's a guy whose job is to implement it, make sure the paperwork's done, and make sure that the leads go out, even if they're bad leads, right, to these 4 agents, so those agents can go out there, sell some real estate, and make Mitch and Murray money. So this, after watching this movie about 3 or 4 times, I'm getting a grudging respect for the Kevin Spacey character, and it might just because now I'm the sales manager over here, and I'm looking up at my roster of agents, much like the Kevin Spacey character would be looking at the roster of agents, and just, you just start seeing numbers after a while, not people behind them. Although we got some great people here, we really do. But his characterization of the suit, and he really is, he's just a corporate suit. I don't see him actually offering any support to his agents on this. All right. I mean, he might not be listening to their complaints because he has to listen to complaints every freaking day he goes in there. All right. But he comes out of his little office over there, comes out of his office, drops some leads on the table, and he goes back into the office, and he's done. All right. Not even to go get him, kid. He walks out, here's your leads. They yelling about the quality of the leads. They bitch about the leads, like, oh my God, these are terrible. This guy, I can't close this guy. I've talked to him for the last 6 months, And he goes back in his little door and closes it. And that's where the drama comes in, all right, is that they're now bringing in a new character, the Alec Baldwin character, all right here, to give a speech, right? Possibly one of the greatest speech in sales movie history. This is the speech that gets quoted, right, around sales offices in every used car lot, every boiler room, sweatshop, stock market, phone center, right? This guy is the alpha omega, the end all, the be all right? He is indeed the Blake. And we're going to be covering the Blake next episode, all right? Thank you very much. We just about to hit the 25-minute mark. We'll wrap up. And that's the end of this episode. Wrap up Glengarry Glen Ross next week. It's going to be super short because it's Thanksgiving. Might bring in a little bit of news or anything like that. I'm going to try to get it all in the can. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So hopefully it'll just automatically go out Thursday night as normal. So you can watch it at home with the family over, as you're trying to recover from your turkey coma. The main thing about Glengarry Glen Ross, and I just cannot harp on this enough, is that these are people who are selling real estate, but they're selling real estate as an investment principle. And you can see some really, really serious heinous douchebaggery. Right, that unfortunately a lot of people think that all real estate agents act like that. Later on, when we talk about two of the other characters in there, and I'm saving the best three for last. The things that they do, the way they present the property, the way they present themselves, are all wrong. Wrong. If you're out there trying to get your license and you are watching this for motivation, go, oh, I want to be that guy. Wrong. Stop. Put it down. If you want to pump and dump stocks, right, and call up little old people and stuff and try to explain to them why they need to buy this new biotech firm at 27 because it's going to the moon, maybe you can watch this, right? But don't watch this movie as any kind of example of how you need to perform in real estate. Just no. So really looking forward to the next three characters because they are a lot of fun. But that's all next week. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great weekend out there. And I'll talk to you later.